Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this cold day where I am. It's cold in Pretoria. So thank you so much for taking your time to join us for this live broadcast. Welcome. And the aim of this broadcast is to motivate you on your academic journey. As UNISA, we realize and we recognize that open, distance, and e-learning can be challenging. So today, the aim is to remind you that we care about your academic journey and we want you to succeed. Today's topic basically is aimed at building your mental strength in order to easily deal with your academic journey and your academic demands. So we are delighted that you are joining us today. Thank you so much for making the time. So just to go over some house rules, we kindly just ask that whoever is joining, you mute your mic so that we do not disturb the session. And also your video must be off so that we do not disturb our facilitator. And there will be time allocated towards the end of the broadcast to pose questions. So where we open time for questions, please do post them in. And then also lastly, we do have a survey at the end of the broadcast. We kindly just urge you to please respond so that we understand your concerns, and for us as a unit to understand basically if these broadcasts are helpful to you as you do in your academic journey. Just tell us your feedback and we'll take into consideration your concerns. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed guest, who is Dr. Shahida Jansen, who's the Deputy Director of Academic Support and ICT at Pero Campus in Cape Town in the Western Cape. Dr. Jansen has completed all her degrees at UNISA, from undergraduate to PhD. She has spent most of her work in higher education as a student support professional, promoting success and throughput of university students. So, Dr. Jansen, thank you so much for allocating this time to share your wisdom with our students. And over to you, Dr. Jansen.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zulu, and thank you so much for inviting me. I was so excited to come on and do this. So let me start with greetings. Good morning, everybody. And then when I was studying in Pretoria at UNISA main campus, and then I learned also to greet Dumelang, Lekai,
Ritengukai.
Kiteng. And then I was working in Joburg and I learned to greet Sanbonani.
Unjani.
And Sawubona, South Africa. And I'm here in the Western Cape, of course, and here we say Molweni nonke, which in our Afrikaans translate into Goeiemôre almal. And of course, we've got a very large Muslim community in Cape Town, and we say Assalamu alaikum. And if you are from the townships, the Cape Flats in the Western Cape, and then you hear people say, Away Masakant, all right? So I hope with those greetings that I have welcomed everybody. My name is Shahida, and I'm not sure if I've missed you, Ms. Zulu. Can I go ahead and just introduce myself?
You can. I already introduced you, but it's fine. You can continue.
Okay, all right. And that's because that's the part that I say I missed because I was offline. I couldn't hear you. All right. So as Ms. Zulu introduced me, my name is Shahida. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight into, and it's not going to be a presentation. It's going to be a conversation. So I'm really hoping that there are many of the students here who's going to be open to participate. And I just want to say why I'm saying this is not a presentation, but it's a conversation. Because in terms of teaching and learning philosophy, we learn a lot more when we are active and when we are participating, all right? And the other thing is, I assume, especially when you are a UNISA student, as you probably heard Ms. Zulu said, I did all my studies through UNISA. And so if you are a UNISA student, you have a maturity far beyond your years, right? That people outside may not be aware, or people who hasn't studied through UNISA is not aware, but to study through UNISA requires a special human being, all right? And so also for that reason, I am going to create lots of opportunity. And I'm going to wait when I'm going to ask and nobody responds, and then we're going to sit in silence, all right? So I really hope you're going to speak back to me. So what I've decided to do is, this presentation is, I'm going to, because we're talking about mental strength, but our mental strength, our psychology, is related to our socio-spirituality, because our nature is spirit, or moya. We say in our local, some of our local traditions talk about moya, and moya can be interpreted as wind or spirit or energy. And so if we reduce you to your fundamental essence, what we are left with is moya, is spirit, all right? So you are this vital, energetic, dynamic force, right? That is what you are as a person, all right? In terms of our local understanding of who you are umoya, you are a spirit, all right? And that spirit, just for some of you who might start feeling, whoa, but I don't believe in these things, I'm a Christian. So remember, the basis of the Christian person is also spiritual. If you go on a biblical basis, or you go to the old Jewish scriptures, you will find that the basis of the self is spirit, all right? If you go to the Middle East, the Arabs believe that the highest self is a spiritual self. If you go to the Far East, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Taoists, the Chinese, the Japanese, they all believe in a spiritual self. So today what we're going to do is, we're going to talk about your vitality, your dynamism, and how being umoya already prepares you, means that you are fundamentally a learning person. So that's what we're going to, that's my point of departure. We're going to talk about who you are, because we have lost an understanding of who we are, right? And so we tend to then absorb when people say, but you know, we are not, African people are not bright people, they are dumb people, or we believe all kinds of mythologies, you know, that gets related to us. And for me, when we talk about mental dynamism and mental strength, we need to start by reaffirmation of who you are. So that's the fundamental objective of today's conversation. And because I'm going to talk about Moya, all of you, the places where you come from, whether it's there from the, the Eastern Cape, whether it's in KwaZulu-Natal, whether it's there in our northern provinces, you come from a place where people speak about your spiritual, social nature, right? You have heard of, even if you are English speaking in South Africa, you have heard of the term Ubuntu, right? And Ubuntu also actually is based on an understanding of ourselves as socio-spiritual beings, beings of belonging. And I'm going to make a point of explaining how, because we are fundamentally spiritual beings, that is actually what sets us up for learning. right? That is why we can be our academic self, our best selves. That is why we are resilient and we can bounce back. Think about what has recently happened in South Africa and certain flashpoints in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng. Terrible things, all right? And then you see also how there's an ability to bounce back. All right, so that's going to be the objective. The main objective is to explain to you that actually who you are, the philosophy, the meaning, the understanding of who you are is actually the basis of your resilience, the basis of your mental health strength, right? And then from there, we're going to open the conversation and say, all right, so what concrete activities, what behaviors, what thoughts, what do you do that makes you mentally strong? So that's my opening to this presentation. I'm going to just pause there now. I'm going to check in with Ms. Zulu. Thokozo, is this making sense to you? Speak to us about what this means for you when you hear me saying this.
Yes, it's making a lot of sense because as you explained that we come from different backgrounds, and I'm a Christian, so I do have a spirit in my understanding, and also that my outside environment and my inside environment determines a lot of things that could factor in my academic journey and some of the decisions that I make. So my understanding of the spirit is it's something that centers me or grounds me. And more than anything, I think what I picked up is that you spoke about Ubuntu. Ubuntu it's something that is very fundamental to African philosophy, and that guides our thinking. It shapes our thinking. So yes, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Excellent, excellent. So let's open the floor for one more person or two more people, just to give you a sense of the introduction to the topic.
David, if you could turn on the chats, please, so that students could maybe
they can also write something.
Yes. Share their thoughts on the introduction of what Dr. Hansen has spoken about.
Yeah, because I think that, and that's why I'm spending time with the introduction, because I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from is I'm saying we must understand who we are, our original nature, right? So that we understand that we are put together by a substance of dynamism. We are open. Our very nature is to learn and to take in. We are curious. Our very nature is curious, because can you imagine if you are spirit? Spirit is something you can't put it in a box. It doesn't stand still. Okay. Now I want you to imagine that you're trying to pull this energy. We are energy. So you don't even have to be a believer. You can be a radical atheist. You can reject the whole notion, of God, because this spirituality that I'm talking about is an energy force. It is not limited by God or, theistic beliefs. You don't have to. But we say that for us in an African context, like you had referred to, Mazulu, we are in an African context and we understand ourselves as this energetic forces. Okay. We are vital beings. Our nature is change-orientated, growth-orientated, and we are dynamic. We move, we want to take in. Things happen to us and then we jump out of the way or we jump ahead and we find another way, all right? So that is our original nature. So in other words, our original nature is to be learning orientated, is to take in from our environment, is to adjust and to adapt and to make another plan, yeah? If that plan isn't working, you go to plan B and C and D and Z, right? So I can see somebody is writing. Michaela is writing. Can I have another response so long to what I am saying?
So far, I don't see anything from my side. I don't know. David, can you see something?
Okay, then I'm going to start calling names. I can see there is a Maibongwe Ruth Dube. Is it Miss Dube? Maibongwe, is it a man or a... No, it's Ruth. So it's a lady. Maibongwe, can you talk to us? Then I also see Fezile. Then there's a Sapiwe. Koza. Who's going to speak to us? Goodness. Is goodness going to speak to us? No bushle. Msomi. Ne, Msomi, are you going to speak to us? And then there's Rachel. And Reward. Wow.
Oh, there's Michaela.
Okay.
So Michaela has a comment.
Okay.
Michaela says, I don't believe that the spirit is differentiatable. The physical being.
Okay.
I'm
Michaela,
not sure.
do you want to speak to us about that?
Michaela, you are welcome to open your mic and maybe expand on what are you saying on your point.
Because Michaela is very correct in what she's saying, because that social spirituality also manifests in different dimensions, because remember, we are inside, we are intersectional. There are different dimensions of our being. I'm going to show you another slide. If you look at those different dimensions in that slide, you can see we have a physical part, there's a plant. So part of ourselves are embodied, all right? I'm going to show you this one. You can see in our Xhosa tradition, our essence there is spirit, and then we have a heart, inhliziyo yam, my heart, all right? So you have emotions, you have your backbone, your personal power, you have a brain, you have a body, that plant, you have a shadow, or what we say in modern Western psychology, you have an id, your dark side, right? And then you also have your personal spirituality, your soul. So Michaela is very correct. We are multidimensional. We are...
If Dr. Hansen, if you can maybe project that, because we didn't see that, sorry. Dr. Hansen, you could maybe project the slide for us again. Your mic seems to be off.
Okay, this one, can you see it, or am I not projecting at the moment? Doesn't look like I'm projecting.
No,
good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, who's speaking?
Wayne.
Okay, do you have a question maybe or a comment with regards to what Dr. Hansen has spoken about, the spirit?
I just joined the
okay,
meeting right
please switch off your mic then.
And
welcome. Thank you for joining us.
No, sorry to interrupt. And I can't type on my side because it's saying you can't send the messages because you are not a member of the chat.
Oh.
Okay. So can you just maybe switch off a bit? We're gonna fix that just now. And then maybe those who joined earlier, do you maybe have a comment or contribution towards what Dr. Hansen has said already?
Okay, so what I want to move on to now, I want to give a bit of a summary in terms of how the way you understand yourself translate into academic excellence. So one of the things that I want to, one of the consequences for teaching and learning is when you transform your understanding of who the student is it can bring new and expanded expectations from both the teacher and the student, all right? And also when you connect the person's understanding of themselves, it also can change your understanding of intelligence. So intelligence is not just cognitive as we know, all right? Because we are so dynamic, even our IQ is dynamic. Some people are more emotionally intelligent than others. Some people are so, you see in South Africa, you see a lot of linguistic IQ. When I was living in Joburg, I was astounded how many languages people can speak in South Africa, all right? You see some people have musical intelligence, all right? They are very good with musical instruments or with singing or dancing. So there's a rhythmical intelligence that they have. We also speak about spatial intelligence. We speak about logistical or mathematical or bodily. You see people how they can move their bodies, all right? And so they have what we call kinesthetic intelligence. You see excellent teaching and learning, and so we talk about teaching or pedagogical intelligence. There are some teachers that you know they stand out for you because of the ability to transfer knowledge. You can be a professor of all the professors, but you are not able to translate and to transfer your knowledge to an ordinary audience. And some people have got that kind of IQ. And then you also have spiritual IQ. You will find people who are very intelligent in the spiritual realm, or you have cultural intelligence, and you see how people use culture to be able to do all sorts of things. So one of the consequences then for me of
May I kindly request that we switch off our mics so that we do not disturb the session,
okay,
please?
so one of the consequences then of I started this session, I said in fact the key objective today of talking, the purpose of this conversation is to discuss mental health strengths, all right? And I said that we cannot understand mental health strength until we understand who we are. And I gave a local understanding what, in fact, most cultures around the world understand the self as in some way having a spiritual essence. In our African tradition, and African here does not refer to the color of your skin, African refer to having a relational understanding of yourself. In our local, on this continent, whether we call ourselves Arabs or whether we call ourselves Africans in sub-Saharan Africa, we tend to see ourselves in belonging terms. And the reason for that is that we have this term called moya, where we refer to us, where we understand that our essence is spiritual, but spiritual in a social way. In other words, we see ourselves as continuous with the rest of the universe. We have this vibrating, pulsating, this dynamic energy. That is who we are. And because that is the way I understand the self, it also means that our IQ is dynamic and diverse. And so we have different kinds of intelligence. And although in our conventional curricula, we tend to define IQ only as cognitive, today I am opening your mind and I'm saying there are many different kinds of intelligence, all right? And so I just listed for you there some of the different ways in which you are intelligent. The other consequence of stating that your essence, that you are umoya, and because you are umoya, you are unamandla, you are powerful, because your nature, your fundamental nature is social. You can bounce back very easily from difficulties. So when you are having some difficulties, You are, of course, you feel it, and you must sink into your difficulties. And sometimes you must feel it. Sometimes we're depressed and we are down, or we are grieving. There's been a loss, but later on we are able to bounce back. Yeah, and so because your nature is resilience, all right. And then I also said to you, because of your because of the fact that you are
To do the, sorry, please switch off your mic.
Can I continue? So,
Yes,
so the first thing then I said that your nature is you got your social nature. We see ourselves in terms of belonging, and that is actually where our fundamental strengths come from. I said because of our fundamental social nature, we have diverse and many forms of IQs, all right? And because of our social nature, we are fundamentally resilient, right? And because we are fundamentally resilient in an academic context, we are able to persevere. We go up against the odds. We can exercise patience. In the midst of despair, we find that sliver of hope. And because we know we fundamentally always belong, we have humility, we go in community, we know sometimes we have to rely on others. There's no shame in needing to have support, all right? There's no shame in tears, in grieving, in sadness. But once we have expended our tears and we have allowed ourselves to be sad, we bounce back, all right? And we can again get into our hard work, our creativity, our insightfulness, our optimism, our faith, our flexibility, our openness, our ability to take risks and to learn from failures, all right? And so for me, that is what I wanted to, that was the fundamental point that I wanted to make, that through our humanity, we are actually profound beings of teaching and learning. We leave our historical education and we embrace a type of education that is an extension of our humanity. And it's through our humanity that we are resilient and that we can benefit from learning. All right, so I'm going to stop there now, and again I'm going to pause for some reflections, because in the next section I want to move and talk about some of the specific ways in which we exercise our mental health strength. And I'm going to ask you then to share some of the more common mental health strengths that you yourself have exercised, that you have witnessed, that you know about, all right? But before we go there, let's pause and go back to, I've introduced you to an understanding of yourself as a relational being. I said the basis of, because the basis of yourself, you see yourself as belonging. You know that you are never alone. You know that you are a resilient person. And because you of your expanded nature of yourself, you know you have been designed to learn, to be curious. So your very nature is learning and creativity. So there's no such thing that I can't learn, or I'm not creative, or I'm not artistic. There is something, there is some intelligence that you have that nobody else has, all right? Okay, I want some comments now just on the definition, that definition that I'm introducing of yourself. I'm almost trying to reframe your definition of yourself, that you see yourself as a person who has been designed for learning and for overcoming. Can I get some comments? Thank you.
Dr. Jansen, from my side as the host, then can I take this opportunity to ask a question?
Yes.
So can I then, with that being said, can I then ask that from the side of the IQ and intelligence, does that mean you know that means we are all intelligent from what you are explaining?
Yeah.
Because I realize that people, will measure you according to maybe certain standards of your
There
IQ
we go.
level, without
Yes.
realizing that there's spiritual IQ and all the other kinds of intelligence that you have spoken about. For me, it's comforting to know that, you know, maybe looking at different backgrounds of where we come from as UNISA students, is that we are able to, although there are challenges, but we should be able, like you said, to bounce back. Like you also emphasize that it doesn't mean that it's gonna be easy, but at the end of the day, our energy should be able to say whatever challenge that I'm going through academically, either internally or externally, at the end of the day, as human beings, we are able to bounce back, which I think the whole point is to actually, you know, guide students and motivate whatever challenges that you especially with open distance learning. It can be maybe isolated and it can be very, very hard. Okay, maybe let me switch on my camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very challenging and it can be very, very, very hard. But at the end of the day, like you said, students pass and they succeed. And you know, like you said, we are able to bounce back whatever the environment that we are in. So for me, I'm actually learning a lot to say we shouldn't undermine, even though whatever background that you come from, we shouldn't undermine our strength. We shouldn't undermine our inner being. And yeah, for me, it's actually very comforting to know that when let's say I'm a UNISA student and I'm struggling with my studies, it like, for instance, as we say that there's a season for everything. It might maybe seem overwhelming and it might seem very hard, but you know, I think the whole point is to start where you are, focus on your academic journey. And I think you also spoke about, for me, what says that at the end of the day, you're going to be successful, and we shouldn't be focusing on what maybe other people are saying, because you do have intelligence, and it might not be what maybe worldly standards or the environment that you are in say, but the fact that you are a UNISA student and you are trying to get a qualification, you are able to focus on your studies, although no matter how hard it might be, that you are able to actually accomplish that, which for me, I think it's a good thing. So also, may I kindly just ask?
Okay, before we, because there's more questions, but I just want to follow up on what you are saying before we, because I can also read some of in the chats, all right? So I'm very glad to see people are being activated now. So you must also remember, within our own families, let's not even go outside, within our own families, we have students who families are whole day telling them, you will end up as a no good. You are this, you are that, you are being called names, you are being put down, okay? Also, you are under pressure because people are not valuing around you, are not valuing your education, and they want you to go work. And there's so much poverty and there's no money and the rent and food and all of those issues that students are struggling with, right? And so nobody's supporting you, and they every day they are dragging you down, okay? And so what we must understand the real context that many of our students are struggling and studying under. The conditions are not ideal, okay? And so some of, I know, I mean, I worked also at residential universities. There was one student who actually fainted in one of the rooms out of hunger, okay? So our students are up against a battle for survival. So I just want to let the students know that we are very aware of the real circumstances. So I'm not trying to be like kumbaya and just be like, oh, we just have to be like Ubuntu, No, we are saying, I'm sharing with you very important, how can I say, philosophical tools. In other words, understandings that you need to hold, that you can hold on to, a belief system that can strengthen you during those times, sometimes when you are under a lot of strain and a lot of stress. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to make that point in relation to what you were saying.
Yes. Oh, okay. So we have a question from Joy Faith. So the question is, how do you balance work, studies, and your personal life? That's a question from Joy.
Okay.
Should I also?
And also read out, there's a comment, there's a long comment there from Poitumelo.
Okay, Michaela also have another question. How do we improve emotional intelligence?
Okay.
It's been mentally draining during the riots in KZN.
Yeah.
And then Boitumelo is saying she also believes that everybody has their own specific intelligence. I think she's
Yes.
agreeing with us.
Mm.
I've struggled with this a lot growing up, and I know that I am intelligent, but the pressures from other people or comparisons
Yes.
made either between us as students and in our families. In my first time studying through UNISA, I'm usually anxious or feeling down because I'm not even used to distance learning. It's important to know that as human beings we are resilient. I think that's very positive. From what I'm picking up with Dumla is that, you know, whatever situation or environment that you are in, she's like you mentioned, Dr. Hansen, she's able to bounce back. I think that's very, very, very positive.
Very important.
Yes, so I don't know if you want to attend to Michaela and Joy. Joy
Okay,
said, how
let's take these other hands. So let's take other questions. I could see these other hands.
okay, Khomoto has a question. Khomoto, you can go ahead, and then followed by Pauline, Nelly, and Titi. Khomoto, you can go ahead.
Okay. From what you've said so far, like what I've picked up and what I'm personally struggling with as of now is defining who am I. So I understand they say you should know, like you're saying that you should first know who you are. Yes, you're a spiritual being and everything. But then how do you actually sit down and say like, okay, I am this? Because in most cases when someone asks you, who are you actually stating the things that you want to be or the person that you want to be. So my question is, who or how do I start by defining myself? Because I understand that if you really don't know who you are, you're going to lack contentment. And if you lack contentment, you're just going to go with the wind, especially now in the age of social media, how people are just throwing their perspectives. You're just going to go on picking up every perspective. At the end of the day, they become they contradict each other because you don't have a solid ground to stand on. So my question is, how do you start? Where? Or do you start off by saying, okay, I want to be this person, and then you start living up to that person, and then you become that person? Like how?
Wow. Sure. All right. Okay.
Thank you. And
There's some other questions also.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I think Komoto has just covered part of what I am actually going through as well, because it's quite difficult having to rather note some of the aspects that you are actually lacking on when one doesn't know who they are and how to actually address the next person of who the kind of a person they are. It is very much problematic because I might think I'm quite smart and all that, but eventually I do need support. I am quite a slow learner, and there's quite a lot of low keys that I'm not paying attention to. And how do I, as an individual, be able to see that I'm actually falling on this aspect? I need assistance, or rather, how do I then stand up and say, you know what, I do not know or direction to actually find or rather be a student, because being a first year student on my side, it has been quite difficult, and having to do a distance learning, it's also quite challenging.
Thank you, Titi. Paulina, are you covered?
No, I still have a question.
Okay, you can go ahead. Maybe that would be our last question. Then maybe you can have a comment from the chat. It's fine, Paulina.
Yes, because I've tried to type something, but it says I'm not a member of the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
You can go ahead.
Yes. The thing is, as Ma'am Shaira has said, we are different and we have different spirits, like as Christian and other religions. So the thing is, according to our learning, we learn differently. And then on my side, I will study the whole day and then until 3 o'clock a.m. So it's been a problem because my mother would say, why you must sleep, you must have time to like relax or something. But I see good results. I'll see 100%, 70%. So some people, they have to work hard to be successful. So the thing is, I wanted to ask if I'm right or I'm wrong, or is there anything? I don't know.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe Dr. Shaida, you can.
Okay. I see there's another hand, Pauline, because I just wanted to give people a chance just to speak, and then later I will try and respond. I see there's a Pauline is done, so it's an old hand. Okay. All right. So I think before I respond to the questions, I just want to make a process comment. All right. So that we don't overpromise and underdeliver in this broadcast. So this broadcast was meant to be a generic discussion on mental health strengths. So I may not be able to respond specifically to many of your questions because some of what you're asking may require a different kind of context, right, for those questions to be answered. But I think for me, what is important is that it is very lonely to study through UNISA, to study online, and because we are social beings, you know, our very nature, going back to that, we are umoya, you are a social being. Learning is a social activity. We need to see ourselves mirrored, you know, by other learners, you know, and by a teacher and so on. So you can just imagine how lonely it is for you to study in this way, all right? And of course, some people need less social than others, you know, because again, we are different. But learning is a social activity. You're not supposed to just, you know, in my culture, they say, if you're sitting with a book only and you're learning without a teacher, then the devil may become your teacher. In other words, what it is saying is that you may go off the rails, you know, because your interpretation of what you are reading cannot be corrected because there's no teacher, there's nobody that can guide you, okay? So then a general thing that I want to say to everybody, when you're learning through UNISA, I would have never, I studied all my studies through UNISA. I would have never been able to survive without my study group, all right? But of course, study groups are also needs guidance, and you need to know how to facilitate and run a study group, because there will inevitably be people in that group who doesn't want to, they just want to come and, you know, take what others are doing, and they don't want to do the work themselves. And what about conflict, and how do you get the group going? So yes, you will have to learn how to facilitate a study group. But what I'm saying is that you must use these kind of platforms to connect with other students so that you at least make some contact so that you are not completely alone. So some of what you're asking, that you have a group or some other people that can actually link up with you. So then the first mental health strength that I'm sharing here is I'm saying to you that you cannot do things on your own. Make sure, like you are doing today, you know, you are finding opportunities where you can hear yourself through other people. All right. So that's the first mental health strength that I want to share. Mam Zulu, is that being taken down somewhere?
Yes, but if you
Okay.
could just project yourself, because now we can only see your screen.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let me unshare my screen.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one then is that you must in some way find for yourself some social support in the form of a study group, in the form of whatever you're doing to try and decrease the amount of time that you can't be, you must be alone, and we learn when we have to learn alone, and you have to be responsible. It is at the end of the day, you can't blame anybody. You have decided, so you must. But what I'm saying to you is that a fundamental principle of learning and to be successful academically is we cannot be successful alone. And especially in today's world, many people do not have family support, or there's such a lot of dysfunction, or there's such a lot of just problems in the family. All right. So, but in some way, you're going to have to find social support for yourself. So that's the first mental health strength that I want us to note for today. All right. Now let me go to, so that leads into the question about work-life balance. And so every tradition have something to say about all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All right. So in some sense, you have to bring balance. So one of the things, for instance, for myself is that I must do some form of exercise. Okay. So swimming and so you can't not exercise your body. So I want to, and that even means whether you are just jumping up and down or doing some press-ups or push-ups right there where you are. It doesn't matter how small your little space is. If you can just jump up and down for 5 minutes or 10 minutes every time, break your studies with some form of physical activity. All right? So that when you take a study break, in fact, Ma'am Tokozo, the next thing we need to do is, because one of the things I used to do with students is to a practical exercise, how to actually study and how to take a break during studies. And from that activity that I used to share with students is that we would do the exercise together. Together, I will stand up and me and the students, and we jump up and down for 5 minutes just to show you physically that you must get your blood circulation going. You must get your breathing up. You must do something that energizes your body. Okay? That's the second mental health strength, is the body. Okay, so the first one was social, and the second one is you must engage the body. I'm already speaking to the question around work-life balance. Now I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show you the picture of the body. Mabzulu, just say when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank
Right.
you.
So now I'm going to go to the body.
We can see.
Okay. So in isiXhosa we say umzimba, it's the body. All right. And so our flesh. So our body is real. Biblically, we talk about the temple. Right. So your spirit is housed in a temple. So we may not neglect the body. Okay, your body matters. We know we're living in a country where I think probably about I don't know, is it 10 million people every day who face hunger in this country? Can you imagine you have to study and you don't have food? Your body demands food. Your body demands physical activity. We must honor the body. So the person who asked me the question about work-life balance, social, and then physical. And is it Michaela who said something about, because I didn't understand what she meant by the physicality, but we are not just spirit. Please, our spirit is housed in a physical body, and that body makes demands on us. It wants to eat, and it wants to eat certain foods. It wants vegetables, it needs minerals, it needs water, and it needs to be moved. And so put the music on and do your dances and your stretches and your yoga or your whatever how you engage your body. But the body is fundamental to work-life balance. Work, study, life balance. We cannot get away from the body. All right? Then the other one that I want to bring in. So here, part of our humanity is also umgrondo, our brain. Okay? We refer to the ego in modern Western psychology. All right? And the brain is the center of our worldly competence, our intelligence. Okay? Our ability to perform and to achieve. But the brain is impacted by the body. So if you do not feed that body well, if you do not move that body sufficiently, the brain will be foggy. Umgrondo will suffer. Okay? If we do not feed our body and move our body. All right? So our plant and our body and our brain is interconnected. I'm not going to bore you with the science, but there's so much scientific information today that shows that there are direct connections from the heart to the brain, from the body to the brain. Okay? Our brain is a social organ. It is interconnected. Okay? And then still on the question of study-life balance. Intlizio, our heart, which is a symbol of our emotions. We feel, and our emotions is energy. So if you do not feel your sadness, if you do not feel that loss, and you go into that loss and that grieving, it is then becomes more difficult to bounce back. So we need to honor all our emotions. We feel joy, we feel happiness, but we feel pain. We feel sadness. We feel loss. We feel lonely. There's no shame in feeling lonely or in feeling sad or in feeling self-doubt. All right? Or feeling I don't like myself. That is real. So we need to also engage and express our emotions. That is why our ancestors on this continent, remember even now today in some of the villages and the place, people do those dances, they do those rituals because they move the emotions together collectively. But we've become now so in our urban jungles, we don't engage our feelings. We feel ashamed. You must go spend lots of money to go speak to a psychologist to engage your emotions. We no longer have rituals where we can just engage our feelings. Okay? Remember our brain. In fact, I can give you the author's name. They show you how there are connections between the heart and the brain. Okay, and so we must move our emotions, otherwise we can't think. You know, when you're very sad and you're feeling very down, it's difficult to think. Okay, so life balance, study life balance. We must engage our bodies, engage our emotions, and so that our brain can function. All right. Is this making sense to people so far? Did I answer the question before I go to the other questions? Did I answer the question of study life balance? Can I just get the thumbs up or a, if that is answered? There
Yes,
you
I have
go.
a lot of thumbs up.
No. So
Yes, there you
I
go.
spoke about you need social support, you need connections, and then I spoke about the body, and then I'm speaking about the emotions, how we are feeling beings, it's energy, and we gotta deal with our emotions, our feelings, right? Right, now Mam Zulu, you're gonna have to help me now with some of the other questions.
From the chat box, I'm getting a sense that a lot of people are saying they're feeling a bit. From the chat box, I'm getting a sense that a lot of people are feeling a bit overwhelmed, especially with the online learning. Since this is most of our students are first years, they struggling to actually with distance learning. That's the common question. How do we find a balance, or how do we actually I think that's a common question, finding a balance between online learning and how the shift from high school, where the teacher is always standing in front of you, and then going to online learning. I think that's a very common one. And then the other one is basically about being anxious, trying to also, trying to get an education, but at the same time, some people are feeling anxious, and some are not really finding a balance with family. There's a lady, I think, that says she has 2 kids, and it's a bit hard because she's working. I just want to find her name quickly. Sherry Lee, I think. Huh? Is it Sherry Lee?
I also read about the family issues,
Yes.
society. I just want to go back. Did I answer Michaela's question? Because she had us.
Michaela, if you can just maybe, if you're comfortable, maybe open your mic and pose your question or a comment, if you don't mind.
Answer, because I just want to know if I answered her question.
And then the other common one is, please assist us how to be successful in academics through online learning. Oh, that one is a common one.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, yes, you can go ahead.
Now, what I wanted to find out basically is emotional intelligence is a bit difficult for me, especially when it comes to the riots in KZN. I'm not sure about those people in Gauteng at the moment, but it's a bit emotionally draining, and to look at things and to be so anxious and to still go ahead and do your assignments, and then you have so many assignments to do because of the super semester. So it has been a bit difficult, especially emotionally. So how do we handle our emotions? That's what I wanted to find out.
Okay, because that's how do we improve emotional intelligence? Okay, so let me share again the picture of the heart, because I like to speak with pictures. Okay, emotions are so important. Emotions is energy, and if we don't engage our emotions, we really get stuck. And we find ourselves not having energy, and unable to be active and do what we need to do. Mam Zulu, can you see? Am I?
Yes.
Is my picture
Yes, we can
showing?
see. Yes, we can see Dr. Hansen.
Okay, they must just mute there.
Please mute your mics. Thank you so much. Please mute your mics.
Okay, so the student who just asked now about the events in KwaZulu-Natal, it has been a very difficult period, especially in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng, and it's worse now. The aftermath is even worse, you know, and also, you know, because it was traumatic. Now, one of the first principles of trauma recovery, trauma is anything that is overwhelming. It doesn't have to be some exceptional incident, but if you start feeling you can't cope and you feel overwhelmed, that is what trauma is. And you start feeling confused, you know, and you can't function, and you don't have your direction, and you're just not able to do what you normally do, then you're probably feeling that's trauma, all right? And one of the first principles to recover from trauma is that a sense of safety must be restored. Now, in parts of KwaZulu-Natal, there has not been a restoration of safety. And also people are not sure, is this going to happen again? And, you know, we're still not safe. We still feel scared of these things. We still don't understand what has happened. We don't feel that we are protected enough. So it's very difficult then for you to start just focusing on your studies, given that your very survival is under threat. Now, remember, now I'm gonna go to the brain now, because you can see our brains are divided into 3 levels. Your cognitive level is just the top level of your brain, okay? Your emotional part of your brain is in the center. If you go deeper, if you go beyond, under the cap of your brain, you have your emotion. That's where your emotions, and then your survival is almost here at the back, at the top of your spine. If you put your hand on the back of your head, that's where your survival brain sits. Now remember, your brain will, what is the word? It will prioritize survival. So you will find that you're unable to think because you're spending so much time thinking about the unrest, you know, and the things that has happened, because your brain prioritizes and picks up that your survival is under threat. So you must understand that the brain will not kick into studies because now it is worried about survival. It prioritizes survival. Do you understand? Because I want, if it's Michaela who asked that question about the student who asked that question about the KwaZulu-Natal and the unrest. So it is normal for you now to be feeling like, I can't do this, I'm anxious, I'm just wanting to affirm your experience as rational. It's logical. How are you just going to sit with your books now and you still feel anxious? And do you get what I'm saying? So I don't want to, I want to give you an answer that is also rational. It is rational given the circumstances that you're feeling anxious, that you're unable to focus, that you're feeling upset and worried, and you are not in a good state of mind to study. That is actually an affirmation of your reality. All right? And so emotional, that means you are emotionally intelligent because you are rationally responding to the situation on the ground. If you were just like laughing and dancing and you can just go on with life while all of this guns are blazing around you and destruction, then one would question your emotional intelligence. You're like, what? No, but you are not, you know, but you are saying to me, I'm anxious, I'm upset, I can't study, this just doesn't feel right. Does that make sense?
It makes
yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So that is why we call it emotional intelligence. Even sometimes when we get very angry, like people think anger is a bad thing. No, anger is one of the 7 core emotions, rage. Because when we feel, I'm not talking about violence. Violence is different from rage, okay? I'm talking about when you feel anger. You know, you feel it on the pit. You are so angry. You can feel the blood is rushing to your face, or you're red. You are so angry. That anger is telling you something. You don't have, you do not respond to your angry feelings by lashing out. You just allow yourself to feel that anger. When you feel it, it informs you something is wrong. That is what is emotional intelligence. So people who are emotionally intelligent, it doesn't mean they don't get angry. They do get angry, but they wait and they feel the anger so that the anger informs them of what is wrong. Okay? And then they find a non-violent means of responding to the situation. You understand what emotional intelligence is? Yeah? And so emotional intelligence now with your studies is that there's a lot of family issues here in my house. People are fighting, people are always scaling, people are always negative, people are not supporting me with my studies and all of that. How am I going to, that is the situation where, how do I find a little space where I can just have enough distance from this, or where is a space that I can be supported, or is there some auntie or some uncle or somebody, you know, that is where the lobola becomes important. I experienced when I was at the University of the Western Cape, people don't understand this thing of lobola, because that uncle or whoever, because lobola was paid, there is some connection there with that family member. Doesn't matter where they live, but there's some connection that was cemented around the lobola negotiations. So sometimes it is not immediate family, but some connection that you find of somebody who's more understanding or can just give you a space. There's no easy answers. So I can't solve your problems for you. This is not the purpose of this conversation, okay? The purpose of this conversation was just on a broad basis, we can speak about what strengths, what strategies can you apply to make sure that you move forward with your studies, okay? All right, so I want to pause again now. I'm speaking too much.
No, we like it, Dr. Hansen.
You like
We
it?
like it, yes.
Hello.
So yes,
There's somebody there.
I don't see any hands, but there's someone.
Hello.
Sorry, please introduce yourself. Yes, you can go ahead.
Hello, I'm Michael by name.
Hi, Michael. Please go ahead.
I want to know why UNISA is not considering video lecture for its students. Because for those of us taking calculational courses, are finding it very difficult going through the study guides alone at the end of the day. So I was thinking if they can just implement something like video lecture, just like the University of Johannesburg. It will really help.
Thank you, Michael. I'm not sure if I caught his question, but I think he said, why don't we have classes online?
Video lecture, yeah, live.
Yes, live.
Okay. We do have, you know, these tutorials and classes that are being offered, but you know, mostly the tutorials are only being held like for some of the struggling modules, you know, where students have been having problems with. But what I would suggest, Mam Zulu, is that Michael make contact with you so that we can find out for him about classes, because I know there by us in the Western Cape there are classes, and also in other regions, so we can maybe put him in touch with the right people.
Thank you, Dr. Jansen.
I don't know if that helps with for Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah,
That
it's a bit difficult to like Dr. Hansen has said, for some modules, yes, they are, but for some of them they aren't. So it's a bit difficult. However, you can send me, what I can suggest is that maybe for your modules, you can contact your lecturers or your admin person in your department, because so that they
I contacted one lecturer sometimes ago. I contacted the lecturer. The lecturer just sent a solution to one of their assignments just through PDF document. So I was trying to tell the lecturer if he can explain in a video way, because a lot of us students were having issues with that particular assignment. But the lecturer said it was not in his duty to do that. So that's why I'm also saying it now in this meeting. If something can be done regarding that, where the lecturer has to like lecture about the class or the study they are taking us, so we get a better understanding rather than just going through it alone and then taking time going through it alone and judging it to work on it. So
yeah, it's a bit difficult to actually provide direct assistance, because that's the responsibility of your department and your lecturer. So from my side, there's really not a lot that I can do. However, I can try to escalate the matter. So I hope that helps.
There should be some support, or even, eventually maybe if you can make contact with other students, because I think it's just the isolation. Sometimes you feel like you're speaking into a big black hole. There's just nobody there.
Yeah, other students too want the same thing. They want a situation whereby we can interact with the lecturer and ask questions. The money we are paying is quite not easy to get. Then just going through the study all alone, especially calculational subjects. You are doing programming here, you are doing mathematical logic. You need somebody to interact with. So we the students actually feel the fact that those lecturers are not really doing anything about the lecture. Just do it all our own and just expect that maybe you get it right or not. We really don't have a guide in terms of video lecture. I'm sure you get what I'm saying. There's nothing like face-to-face interaction or video lecture where we can actually ask questions just like we are doing now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult in that way.
Yeah.
I think what Dr. Hansen also spoke about is that, finding a group where you are able to be in a group that is also like students who are doing the same modules. However, I can also want to advise everybody that, you must also be mindful of the safety precautions, not just with reference to the COVID, but also for your own safety, especially females. Well, everybody is susceptible to any danger, but you have to be mindful on the platforms that you use, and I think also do not be in contact with people where it's not a safe environment. But the main thing is that try to find a study partner. And also, like Dr. Hansen has also raised, that at the end of the day, it has to start with you to be able to have time management, to be able to focus on your studies. We understand the other factors outside of your environment, be it family and work, but it has to start with you. And I also would like to suggest that you watch our first broadcast where we speak about how you are able to actually maneuver around your academic life in your first year, because we spoke about time management. We spoke about a lot of issues that first year students are struggling with, including how to deal with online learning and the supports that UNISA, especially the student retention unit, our unit that is providing. You can also go to our platform where you find various activities, and you find various ways on how to assist you in your academic journey. So I think the important thing is it has to start with you. And like how Dr. Hansen also said, that, you know, what I picked up is that your body is connected, be it the brain, the heart, you know, so they all have to be synced. We are not saying that you must discard the outside factors and the responsibilities that you have to do, but you have to find a way where you find a balance. I also had a question, Dr. Hansen, actually. I wanted to find out then, for instance, when you spoke about the exercise, would then maybe some people do not really like maybe exercising. Let's say I'm interested in chess, with reference to finding when you take a break from your studies, would maybe activities like chess would be some form of taking a break from your studies? Would that count as some form of taking a break from your studies?
Definitely. I just want to also, with reference to Michael, because he's saying about calculation. So, I mean, one of the stuff we offer at UNISA is this help with literacies. So literacies workshops and lectures. So tutorials. So he needs to make contact with you so that we can put in, because we also do numerical literacies, you know, so that would be around the calculations that he's doing. So he just needs to make, because I'm sure they're able to contact you so that you can put them in touch further. Yeah.
Yes. You can contact we have a central email box which we attend to. So that is fine. And also we have all first years were supposed to actually participate in a MOOC where, like you pointed out, literacy, numeric literacies, and all the other aspects that you need to equip yourself as a first year student. So you need to look at that as well, that you're supposed to complete the MOOC, which actually is an exercise that equips you and introduce you to UNISA and all the other, and your academic journey, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what I now want to, because I saw that the other thing that I wanted to just speak to, because we are coming now to a close, no? We're coming to 12:30. That's where we close, isn't it, Mam Zulu?
Yes, we're being generous. We're supposed to close at 1:45, but it's fine. 12:30 is perfect.
We're supposed to close at what,
11:45, but
oh, sure.
but,
Okay.
but
the time. Okay. So what I wanted to, because I'm going to need to go in the next few minutes. I just wanted to speak to some of the things that I'm reading also in the chat box. Because some people are, sorry, man, I just forgot now. There was something that I wanted to respond to. Okay, so there's lots of anxiety and sleep and, you know, that kind of problem. So it's a pity now today that I didn't, we don't have time, because what I would normally have done now with all the students online, we will do it like we do an online breathing activity where I show you, we take you through practically just how to breathe, you know. Or we do what we call progressive relaxation exercise, you know, where we move our bodies with our breathing just to help us. So, because you need to start practicing little practical things to help you calm yourself, you know, because when your heartbeat is racing and you are feeling overwhelmed and you're just so anxious, you've got to have almost a physical way of pulling yourself into a space of calm. And so one of the things I always do with students is we call it yoga breathing, the breathing through your mouth and the breathing out through your, breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth, and holding your breath for long, and, you know, and doing that a couple of times. So you may want to Google, you know, meditation breathing or yoga breathing or progressive relaxation. Just put it in Google and you will find exercises there, and you start doing that by yourself. And even when you don't feel like doing it, like there's never gonna be the right time to do anything, but you start stopping sometimes and you just do that breathing and do it for 2-3 minutes, and then you continue with whatever, and then you break again, and then you do that breathing throughout the day so that you can start doing practical things to help yourself to calm down. All right. It's not easy. You will find maybe dozens of my work at the beginning, but you're going to have to learn how to persevere and to try and do that. All right. Then I'm gonna. Are the questions that are the last final questions that we must take? Because then because I just want to then summarize and bring this to a close.
Dr. Jansen, there's one question where the student is asking, how do you balance your academic life and studies? And then there's also a hand from, there was a hand, but I think they dropped. So there's a hand from Modisha. Modisha, you can go ahead, please. From Jeanette. Yes, sorry. You can go ahead.
Hello, how are you, ma'am?
Good, and yourself?
I'm fine. I just want to ask if there is where I can attend in Limpopo.
You mean classes?
Yes.
I'm not so sure, but I can find out for you. You can send us an email at student retention, then we'll direct you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so now in closing, I would like to start by thanking
sorry, Dr. Jansen, someone's mic is on. Please switch off your mic so that the session is not disturbed. I'm not sure who it is. Sorry, Dr. Jansen.
Okay, so I'd like to start by thanking Mam Zulu and Mr. Rashidi and the retention unit for inviting me. And thank you, David, also for the support. I also want to affirm the UNISA students who turned up, gave of your valuable time. I know you're juggling a whole lot of things as a UNISA student. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I want to summarize by saying, I understood the purpose of this session to be to share and to reflect on some mental health strengths for your studies, to promote the success of your studies. And I interpreted that as the most fundamental and the most important way of being successful with your studies is to understand that your very nature, your social nature, you have been designed to relate, and you have been designed as a curious being. So you are by nature an academic, you are by nature a student and a learner, all right? And I also said that because of our social nature, this Moya, this Ubuntu, you are by nature a resilient being. That life will throw many challenges at us, and life is not easy. It is difficult. You're struggling with a whole lot of things, but you have within you that ability to bounce back, to have moments where you become logical and objective, and you ask yourself, what's going on? And you find alternative ways and means, to make a success of your studies. And then we looked at some of the other components of that Moya self, of that Ubuntu self. The body, for instance, and the emotions, right? And the mind, the intelligence that we have, and how diverse that intelligence is, because we all have unique strengths, but we all are by nature intelligent, and we must attend to the body, and we must attend to our emotions, because our intelligence and our ability to apply our intelligence is dependent on finding that study, work, life balance. Little bit of exercise, attending to our emotions, good food that we have to eat, taking that run or doing the going for a jog, and having good friends and good social support systems. All of those together, when we're able to apply all of those, hopefully that is what gives us the mental health strength to be able to be successful and to graduate with our degrees. I really wish you, I know it's been a hectic semester, I wish you all the success with your assignments and with your examinations later on. And I hope that this is not going to be the last time that we will be speaking. Thank you so much. And thank you once again to the retention unit. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hansen. That was very, very insightful and very helpful. I think for me, the takeaway in one word, because of time, I would say that it's balance, finding a balance. Basically, to build your mental strength, you have to find a balance. Your body, your spirit. Your brain, your heart and your spirit. It's finding a balance. Yeah. And I think also you said it's not an easy thing to do, but I mean we have to do it, and that's just.
And just say to the students, unfortunately, because I saw somebody ask, I'm not able to share my slides because I'm busy writing it up in a manuscript at the moment for publishing. So unfortunately, I can't share my slides. But maybe next time.
Yes, and however, you are going to be able to watch this on YouTube over and over again. Yeah. And so I think that will be helpful to motivate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hansen, for your time, and everybody that has joined us. And we really hope that this was very, very helpful. On a personal level, this was very, very helpful for me. And not just maybe in saying, just like life in general, you have to find a balance. So thank you so much. And I would really urge students to please fill in the survey so that you are able to maybe make suggestions of future discussions, live webinars. Thank you so much, Dr. Jansen. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Welcome.
Have a great day further. Thank you so much. Bye.